we are going to copy the link and send it out to the Chabura over here. Popping it on here. There we go. We're live. Okay, a good vach shavua tov. It's wonderful, Baruch Hashem, to be learning together. For those that missed the shir that we gave today at BRS West live this afternoon, catching up for the chaver that were not able to make it. We are learning today. Of course, the limit was for Tu B'Av, 15th day of the month of Av. Baruch Hashem, we are over the hump of Chodesh Av, beginning of Shivat and Chamta, on our way Be'ez Hashem Yisbarach to the Nechama of Binyan Yerushalayim, rebuilding of Yerushalayim, and the Tchias HaMesim, Biaskal Tzedek B'mher B'Yameinu. We are on the way. We are on the way, and the best way to do that is through Limud HaTorah. We are at the bottom of Daf Yud Aleph Amud Aleph in Maseches Pesachim. The Gemara had dealt with the Machlokes between Rabbi Meir, which we found out was the Rabbanan, and Rabbi Yehuda with regards to whether or not we make a gzeira on looking for chametz, of bedikas chametz, after the Shas Isur, after midday on Erev Pesach. Rabbi Yehuda was of the opinion that we don't need to do so, and the Gemara had questioned with regards to Chadash, and the Gemara had questioned with regards to the Gemara had questioned with regards to the. Sorry, going back up for 1 second. With regards to a chevel and Li on Shabbos, the Gemara come to a conclusion that that Rabbi Yehuda is of the opinion that any place that a person is going to be badl, is going to hold himself back from that item or that activity, that's where the Chachamim do not need to make an additional gzeira, because he knows it well enough himself. But when it came to chametz, that's where Rabbi Yehuda said that you cannot search for chametz. The Rabbanan said that you could. Then the Gemara had questioned whether or not what the difference is between chadash and chametz. And now we are going to take a look at a challenge that the Gemara is going to issue. That's going to take us for the next couple of lines and onto Yud Aleph Amud Beis. Says the Gemara, "B'chol heicha debala minei le'gaz Rabbi Yehuda." Is it really true that Rabbi Yehuda holds that any time that a person would naturally stay away from a particular thing, that the Chacham should not make a gzeira about that? Says the Gemara, "B'hatanya," didn't we learn in a brayso b'chor she'achzei dam, that if you have a firstborn animal that is filled with blood, and Dr. Seltzer told us that this is bloodletting is bona fide legitimate medical practice, even bisman aseh, that b'chor she'achzei dam, b'chor that has too much blood, afilu humeis, even if he's about to die. This is b'chor behema, not a b'chor adam, obviously. Afilu humeis, even if the animal is going to die, ain't mazikin le'dam divrei Rabbi Yehuda. Rabbi Yehuda says that you are not allowed to do bloodletting. What's the concern? Is that if you do bloodletting, you might end up giving him a mum. The Chachamim say no, yakiz, that he's allowed to do the bloodletting so long as he doesn't make a mum, meaning make sure don't do it in a circumstance, in a situation that you're going to end up with a blemish on the animal. Says the Gemara, no, there, the reason that person is going to be doing this is because you're very nervous about your money. You want to make sure that your money doesn't get messed up. We say, if we allow him to do it in a place that, in a situation where you don't end up making a mum on it, he's going to end up doing it in other cases as well. Meaning, anytime that there's an animal that needs bloodletting, he's going to do it, even if it's going to be a situation that is going to lead to a mum. He's going to end up doing it. And Rashi points out, we're talking about the kohen himself. The kohen is nervous that if there's a mum in the animal, that he's not going to end up with the bachar. Bachar for a regular Jew, regular Yisrael, ends up going to the kohen. But the kohen is going to be nervous about this, so that's where the baal al-mamana is going to be. And now you have two conflicting priorities. You have the fact that a person usually stays away from kachim. He's not going to mess with kachim because kachim are kachim. You're not. It's like chadash. It's not like chametz where a person is used to it all the time. It's like chadash where a person would be normatively distant from it. But you have a conflicting priority, and the conflicting priority is that you're worried about your money. You're worried maybe you're going to end up losing money, yeah? And therefore, a person is going to allow themselves a little more leeway because it's talking about their property. V'Rabbanan, what about the Rabbanan? You're not concerned that a person is Baal al-Mamona. So Kol Shekain, even more so, says the Gemara, what's the svara of the Rabbanan? The Eloi Sharis, if you don't let him do it in a way that's permissible, when it's permissible to do bloodletting, the Eloi Sharis klal asna mevad. If you don't let him do it where he is fundamentally allowed to do it, he's going to do it in all the circumstances. And this is a fundamental debate in psychology and education and making rules in general. When it is permissible, are you concerned about saying it's okay because there's a slippery slope? Once you say this is okay, then maybe that's okay and that's not okay. Or did we say no? Don't put any rules there because if you put any rules, then people are just going to do it whenever they want. Meaning, what's the better way? To create some kind of structure or to create no structure around the thing that's mutter because of the thing that might be also afterwards? Okay, that's a fundamental machlokes. Rabbi Yehuda Ramban has major implications to the way that we think about the world. But, says the Gemara, I'm bringing Rabbi Yehuda, Adam Ba'al Mamon. Is it really true that Rabbi Yehuda holds of the psychological principle of Adam Ba'al Mamon, that people are nervous about their money? Vatnanda, we have a brisa that says, Rabbi Yehuda says, Ein Mikadrim v'hem Yom Tov. We don't comb an animal on Yom Tov, because you're going to end up making a wound. Aval mikartzefin, but you do kirsuf, which is another kind of combing, which we'll see in the Gemara in a few moments what the difference is. We don't do mikadrim, we don't do mikartzefin, we don't do either. V'tanya, and we ask the question, what exactly is the difference between these things? Ezu kidur ve'ezu kirsuf. What's the difference between kidur and kirsuf? Kidur kitanim. Kidur is the fine tooth comb. So like it's scratching the hair of the animal, the skin of the animal, you're going to end up making a wound. Va'osim chabura, and it does cut into the skin of the animal, it makes a wound. Kirsuf, what about kirsuf? Is gedalim, that has a thick tooth comb. Ve'ein osim chabura, and it does not make a wound as a result. So the question is, are you allowed to do kirsuf on Yom Tov? Rabbi Yehuda said no. Rabbi Yehuda said, so everybody agrees kirsuf everybody agrees that kirsuf, that kidur is asur. The question is, what about kirsuf? And Rabbi Yehuda said, aval mekatzevim, that you are allowed to. You are allowed to do it. The Chacham say you are not allowed to. So it sounds like that Rabbi Yehuda is not so concerned that a person is ba'al al mamona. When it came to the question of bachar, so Rabbi Yehuda told us that with regards to a bachar, even if he's going to die, you're not allowed to do bloodletting, meaning whether it makes a mum or not, you're not allowed to. And the Rabbanan said you are allowed to, just don't make a mum. And Rabbi Yehuda told us, the Gemara says, because Rabbi Yehuda cares about Adam Ba'al Mamona. And now we've challenged that, because now we see that the Brisa is telling us that Rabbi Yehuda says you're not allowed to comb the skin of your animal, even if it's not going to make a chabura, even if it's not going to make a wound. Says the Gemara, no, Hasam, with the case of the Bechar, the Ishavik le mice. If you leave that animal, the animal's going to drop dead. That's where we're going to say that you are nervous about your money. Hacha, in this case, with regards to combing the animal, if you leave the animal, the animal's going to be in pain, but it's not going to drop dead. We're not going to say that a person is nervous about his property, because he's not actually going to lose property. He doesn't like the fact that this animal's in pain. But that's not the same thing as saying that you're nervous about your property. The psychological distress of the animal having stuff stuck in his skin is not the same thing as being worried about the animal about to die. Says the Gemara, Rabbi Yehuda, what is the reason that with regards to chametz, he did make the gzera? He thinks that you should make the gzera and not allow you to do b'dikas chametz after the 6th hour. And why is it that by kirsuf he thinks that you're not going to end up confusing these things? You're not going to make. We don't need to make the gzera. Says the Gemara, lechem michalaf. A person is going to get confused from lechem to lechem. Meaning, as we pointed out a number of times, the chametz of the Gemara and the matzah of the Gemara didn't look that different. So you need to keep in mind, this is chametz, this is matzah. Lechem belechem, they both, you make hamotzi lechem and aretz, michlaf. There a person is going to switch it. Kidur bekirsuf, but with regards to kidur and kirsuf, le michlaf. That a person is not going to get confused between. A person is going to know that this is a fine tooth comb and this is a thick tooth comb. They're not going to get confused like they would between chametz and matzah. Now for us, a comb is a comb, and chametz and matzah are two totally separate worlds. But the Gemara is saying that for Rabbi Yehuda, psychologically, people don't see the difference between chametz and matzah and Erev Pesach so much, but kidur and kirsuf, they absolutely do. Okay, on to the next Mishnah. And this is a Mishnah, of course, that we have seen, quoted a few Amudim ago. The Gemara tells us, speaking about the Isser eating chametz and the chiyuv of burning chametz on Erev Pesach. Says the Mishnah Masnisin, Reb Meir says, Eichlin kol chamesh, that you are allowed to eat your chametz all 5 hours, the first 5 hours of the day. V'sarfin, and you burn the chametz b'tchilas sheish, at the beginning of the 6th hour. Rabbi Yehuda says, Eichlin kol arba, you eat for the first 4 hours of the day. V'talin kol chamesh, and for the 5th hour of the day, you are not going to eat chametz, and you're not going to burn the chametz. V'sarfin b'tchilas sheish, but you burn the chametz at the beginning of the 6th hour. Now let's just get what we mean by beginning of the hour. So this is talking on a halachic normative day that averaging out from 6 a.m. to 6 p.m. That would be the beginning of the day and the end of the day, which means that each hour is 60 minutes. Let's assume that only happens at the equinox, on the equinox at the equator, that you'd have a perfectly 6 to 6 day. But the rest of the time would be Shabbos Manias. It means the first 4 hours a day is until from 6 a.m. until 10 a.m. That's the first 4 hours of the day. So until 4 hours of the day, Rabbi Yehuda says you are allowed to eat chametz. From 10 a.m. to 11 a.m. That's the from the beginning of the 4th to the 4th to the 5th talin. That's the 5th hour of the day. And then you burn the chametz b'tchilas sheish, means at the beginning of the 6th hour of the day at 11 a.m. So from 10 until 11, don't eat, don't burn, and at 11 you burn. Rabbi Yehuda now tells us the practice that they had on Har HaBayit. They would put 2 loaves of chalas psulos from the korban todah. Korban todah was the only korban that was brought, that was chametz, aside from the shtei alechem that was brought on Shavuos. So the only chametz that you had on Har HaBayit was only on Shavuos, or if somebody brought which obviously there wasn't left over from last year's Shavuos until Erev Pesach, or a challah psula from the karbanos of the korban todah. So they would have 2 of them on this bench, on this itztava that was on Har HaBayis, and everybody's hanging out there ready to bring their korban pesach. Kol zman shemunachos, for as long as both of those loaves were there, kol ha'am ochlin, everybody knows that you can still eat chametz. Nitla achas, when one of them was taken away, tol, everybody stopped. Everybody stopped eating chametz, la ochlin v'la sarfin, not eating, not burning. Nitlu shteihem, but when the second one, both of them were taken away, his chilu kol ha'am sarfin, everybody started burning their chametz. Rabbi Gamliel says, chulin ne'echalin kol arba, a different din that we haven't seen quoted before, that there's a difference between chulin and truma. Chulin you can eat for the first 4 hours of the day. Truma, what about truma? Truma, there's an isser of destroying truma. You're not allowed to let truma go to waste for no reason. Truma kol chamesh. The Rabbanan didn't want to make a gzera for that extra hour from 10 a.m. to 11 a.m., so that was when you could only eat truma, because we don't want you to destroy your truma, shalai kedin, rather that you eat it. So the chama weren't going to make a gzera there. But suffering b'tchila sheish, everybody agrees that by 11 a.m. you have to burn all the chametz. So, but the chacham didn't want to make meaning you have an hour before the shatz beer that everybody holds that you have to burn the chametz and you have to finish eating, etc. But it says Rabbi Gamliel, with regards to truma, the chacham did not want to make a gzera to destroy truma out of the concern that people might eat it past the time that we will deal with in the Gemara a little bit later. Okay, now all of this is set up with the assumption and presumption that people make mistakes with time, that people are not perfect timekeepers, and as we pointed out today, it's only bisman aseh. It's only for the last 100 and so years that people even have the ability to tell time with any level of accuracy. It used to be sundials and hatzlacha rabbah. How do you know what time of the day it is? So we're going to see that this has major ramifications for taking edus, for taking testimony in a beis din. The Gemara says as follows: Tanan Hasam. We learned in a braysa. Somebody says that the murder took place with Colonel Mustard in the billiards room with a candlestick. It took place on the second day of the month. And the other witness, who you are examining separately, says it happened on the 3rd day of the month. Says the Gemara, the braysa, edus and kayamis. That edus is still a good edus. Why? This one knows that there was an extra day of Rosh Chodesh. It was a 2-day Rosh Chodesh, meaning that there was an extra day of the month. So he knows that it's the 2nd day of the month. The other one thinks that it's the 3rd day of the month because he doesn't know it was a 2-day Rosh Chodesh. He thought that there were only 29 days in the month, not 30. We see that this is still true. We are still maintaining with our calendar the Safek Yom, the question of what exactly is the correct beginning day of a Yom Tov. So that's why we keep 2 days of Yom Tov in Chutz La'aretz. That's the Gemara in Beitza. Please God, we will get there. Says the Gemara as follows. Echad Omer b'Shloisha, the Brisa continuing. Echad Omer b'Shloisha, one fellow says that happened on the 3rd day of the month. Echad Omer b'Chamisha, another guy says that it was on the 5th day of the month. It doesn't material. No, that is too much. One of them is clearly lying because nobody gets confused between the 3rd day and the 5th day of the month. There's no normative mistake that a person would make like that. Echad Omer b'Shtei Shas, somebody says, the witness A says that it happened in the 2nd hour of the day. Echad Omer b'Shalosh Shas, that happened in the 3rd hour of the day. Edusam kayamis. That's still true. That works. Echad Omer b'Shalosh. One guy says it happened in the 3rd hour of the day. Echad Omer b'Chamish. Another guy says that it happened in the 5th hour of the day. Edusam b'Tela. That is for sure not true. That didn't work. Divrei Rabbi Meir. This is all the opinion of Rabbi Meir. Rabbi Yehuda Omer, Rabbi Yehuda says, Edusam kayamis, that the Edus is still going to stand. The Edus is absolutely still going to stand in that circumstance. Echad Omer b'Chamish, Echad Omer b'Sheva. But if one of them says that it happened in the 5th hour of the day, another one says that happened in the 7th hour of the day, Edusam b'Tela. That's why we're going to say that the Edus is for sure lying. Why? She b'Chamish chama b'Mizrach. Because in the 5th hour of the day, we're talking 11 a.m. In the 5th hour of the day, the sun is in the east. That's in the Mizrach. Over Sheva, and by the 7th hour of the day, that's 1 p.m., Chama b'Marav, the sun is going to be in the west. The sun is setting. Nobody's going to get confused. You can get confused 2 hours in the morning, but you cannot get confused between morning and afternoon. That for sure. The only way that you tell the time is by looking up at the sun, right? So you're not going to get confused. That's not a normative mistake to make. So that we would be concerned. It doesn't matter that one of them is lying. Now Abai is going to come along. It's going to touch up what exactly does Rabbi Meir hold and what exactly does Rabbi Yehuda hold. Amar Abai tells us, Kshetim Salome, when you want to say Divrei Rabbi Meir, according to Rabbi Meir, Ein Adam Teiv V'lo Klum. When Rabbi Meir says that a person gets confused between, he says one A says it happened in the 2nd hour of the day, and B says it happened in the 3rd hour of the day. What Rabbi Meir is really telling us is that we don't anticipate that people are going to make any mistakes about what time of day things are happening. What they are going to make mistakes with is how to refer to those times. And we'll see what that means in a moment. But according to Rabbi Yehuda, people can make a mistake up to half an hour. Meaning you could get lost with half an hour. You're not going to get your record straight. We assume that people aren't going to have correct timekeeping up to half an hour. How does this work? According to Rabbi Meir, Ein Adam Teiv V'lo Klum. We don't anticipate that the person makes a mistake at all. What time did the event occur? It happened at the end of the 2nd hour, at the beginning of the 3rd hour. Meaning, 6 a.m. is the beginning of the 1st hour. This happened at the end of the 2nd hour. Meaning, it happened at around 8 a.m. One guy says it happened in the 2nd hour of the day. Means around 8 a.m. And the other one says it happened in the 3rd hour of the day. It means the beginning of the 3rd hour, around 8 a.m. Meaning both agree to roughly the same time that it occurs. Rabbi Meir is saying nobody's making a mistake about when it happens. Both of them are saying around when it happened. That we consider to be accurate. The one that's at 2, the 2nd hour of the day, it's a sundial. How close do you know? No, it means at the end of the 2nd hour. And the one that's at 3, shalosh means at the beginning of the 3rd hour. So according to Rabbi Yehuda, it says, one guy says in the 3rd hour, and the other one says in the 5th hour. That's okay. How does that make any sense? According to Rabbi Yehuda, a person can get confused up to half an hour. What time did the event occur? It happened halfway through the 4th hour of the day. That means at the 3rd hour of the day is 6 to 7. That's the 1st hour. 7 to 8, 8 to 9, and then the 3rd hour of the day would be at the halfway through the 4th hour of the day would be at 9:30. It says v'hadaka omer shalosh b'sof shalosh, and the one that said 3 means at the end of the 3rd hour of the day, 9 a.m. V'katoi palga, and he got confused. He gets confused by half an hour. Dishata lekame, he's thinking that it happened half an hour earlier. V'hadaka omer chamish. Now the one says it happened in the 5th hour of the day. B'tchilas chamish. B'tchilas chamish is the beginning of the 5th hour of the day. V'katoi palga, and he also made a mistake at by half an hour. You're thinking that it happened half an hour before. So it happened, punct in the middle at 9:30. One of them said it happened in the third hour of the day, between 8 and 9, but he got confused by half an hour. And the other one says that happened in the fifth hour of the day, between 10 and 11, because he thought that when it was 9:30, it was really 10 o'clock. So up to half an hour, we'll assume that a person could get confused. And that's about as much as we'll assume that people are going to get confused. This is the first interpretation of Abaye. And Be'ez Hashem Yisbarach, we will see a second interpretation of Abaye tomorrow. Shir tomorrow is going to be at 9:30 p.m., I believe. And then Be'ez Hashem back Monday with our regular scheduled programming taking place at 6:15 a.m. Everybody should have a marvelous night. Shavua tov u'mevarach, and looking forward to learning with you tomorrow evening. Laila tov.